What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Tar Heel Illustrated podcast brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, is our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, I guess we're here for a breaking news podcast. You know, I guess that's what we could call it here. Is Cormac Ryan, Notre Dame transfer, has committed to play for the Tar Heels. Just a little background on him real quick, AJ, and then I'll kick it to you to dive into it a little bit more, but played 1 year at Stanford before transferring to Notre Dame, and actually comes in for his sixth and final season because had to sit out for a year after transferring as well. So a guy who's been around the block and proven in the ACC, which I'm sure we'll hit on a little bit later in this one. But AJ, give me your instant reaction to Cormac Ryan committing to North Carolina.
You can look on your phone, but I texted you at some point today because I'd put something on our board, and you texted me and asked me, someone committing. I said, we need probably do a Cormac Ryan podcast.
Yeah, you did. That's true story. It's a true story.
But I will say this, though. He wasn't talking to us for a while. I don't think there was a whole lot of concrete stuff out there about him. Some kids talk more than others, but he did confirm for us this evening that he committed. He's going to do an interview with us in a few days, a full interview with us in a few days. So he is excited to be in Carolina. He understands what the program's about. He has played against Hubert's teams the last 2 years. He's fully aware of what all these guys are all about. And to be honest with you, and speaking to somebody else from North Carolina tonight, I think he's a perfect fit. And he's a great fit. I have emphasized for the last 5 weeks about fit. And one of the things, and one of the reasons I said Carolina not making the NCAA tournament was a good thing in terms of moving forward in the right manner, was if you make the tournament and then make a run, it could camouflage a lot of things that maybe needed fixing, but it's harder to embrace that. But they didn't make a run because they weren't there. So Hubert and his staff quickly got into the self-evaluation phase and quickly started identifying what they wanted the team to look like moving forward. You've got Paxton Wojcik, you've got Jalen Withers, and now you've got Cormac Ryan. What do those three guys have in common? They're perimeter guys. They're guys that give you space. They're guys that can shoot from the outside. They're guys that can do a variety of things. And Wojcik and Ryan, watch their video. You see a lot of stuff where they take a couple dribbles and shoot jumpers just inside the free throw line. With Withers, there's a lot of – Ryan's a great moving off the ball. Yeah. Wojcik's good at moving off the ball. Yeah. Withers is a wonderful backside cutter. Cutting movement was a problem last year. Spacing was often a problem last year. Stretching the defense was a problem last year. And Hubert has satisfied that weakness with these three guys, and there might be more coming forward. I think that they're going to get at least one more. My understanding is they were going to go 4. So he's a fit. He's a fit. He's an older guy. You want to be older? He's going to be older. He's 24 years old. He first year at Stanford, then he transferred. Back in the old days, he had to sit out.
I know it's crazy that he's still in college.
And that was then he played in 21, but that was the COVID year, so he gets it back. So he's got one more year of eligibility. Career high 49 points last year against Alabama in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, he was great in the NCAA tournament run that they had. They played 3 games. He scored like 54 points and was 11 for 24 from 3 in their 3 NCAA tournament games. This year, he averaged 16.5 points a game in their last 5 games. There's a lot to like about this. And one thing I think is impressive is Mike Bray had him as a team captain the last 3 years. And Mike Bray, in talking about him at some point during the season, he said, in all these plaudits about what kind of guy Cormac Ryan is, he said, who knows, maybe one day I'll be working for him. So you're getting a full package here. Hey, you're getting a Stanford education, Notre Dame education, and Carolina grad school education.
Yeah, man, that's not a bad resume, is it? If basketball doesn't work out, he's set for sure, man. Definitely. But
no doubt.
I couldn't agree with you more, AJ. I think he's a really solid pickup. I tweeted out a few days ago when rumors, not rumors, but when we had kind of heard that Carolina had first contacted him and was talking to him and essentially said, sign him up. I think he's a really good player. And I think one thing that you kind of hit on there too, that's the biggest thing for me when it comes to Ryan. I think he, like you mentioned, I think he has a nice all-around game. I really like what he brings to this team because I think he fits a need that North Carolina has. So I think that's a big positive. But the biggest thing for me, AJ, is that ACC experience, a guy that's been around the block a few times. And for me, there's less question marks when you get a guy like that transferring into a program like North Carolina. I know there's a different standard. There is some adjustments, but in terms of adjusting to that ACC level of play, that's not there because he's used to it. I think we were talking a little bit off camera too, that, North Carolina's probably scouted him a few times too. I mean, obviously they have, so they know the weaknesses in his game that they're going to get him to work on the offseason. That's going to be a big plus for his development going into his final year. So I think it's a win-win situation for everybody. And again, I think he definitely, most importantly, fits a need for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, he's a guy that can be a high volume scorer for you at times. Mm-hmm. He's not always a high volume scorer, but when he's not shooting you out of games. Mm-hmm. You're not going to look at a stat line and see 2 for 17. You're not going to see it. It doesn't exist. So he's a guy that plays within himself, but he also knows how to take over in stretches. Mm-hmm. Go back and watch the Alabama game last year. He was feeling it. I think he had 16 or 18 at halftime against Crimson Tide. That was a good Alabama team. Yeah. That was an Alabama team coming off an Elite Eight the year before and a year ahead of where they were number 1 in the country for a long time. So that was a really good team. And Cormac was at his best. I think 2 years ago, he had 28 in a win at Duke. Mm. He scored 23 this year in a game in a win over Michigan State. They actually routed Michigan State in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And he scored 23, and I think he was 6 for 11 from 3 in that game, or 6 for 7 from 3 in that game, I think. Mm-hmm. So when you look at their big wins, and they didn't have money in the league. No. Just like with Withers. When Louisville won, Withers played well. Mm-hmm. When Notre Dame won, especially in the league, Cormac Ryan played well. Mm-hmm. And by the way, he scored 14 on November 12th, 2018 in a Dean Dome in a Stanford uniform. So when he takes the floor, and I sent this to Carolina, they're going to look it up, I'm sure. And
it's got to be confirmed, but it's got to be something unique, yeah.
When he takes the floor for the first time on November 6th, when Carolina plays Radford, he may become the first guy to appear in a game in the Smith Center playing for 3 different schools.
Yeah, multiple times too.
At Stanford,
Notre Dame as well.
A few times at Notre Dame, and then of course North Carolina.
That's pretty wild.
I think this is a great fit. When you think about the teams that make runs, the teams that make pushes, you think about experience. You think about selfless players. You think about guys that their basketball DNA says, let's play off one another. Not guys whose basketball DNA says, I'm going to pound a sucker on the floor and I'm going to get mine. Mm-hmm. Or they think that's being part of the team because the team needs me to get mine in order to win. Now, I think with Armando, he needs to get his. They have a much better chance of winning. I think RJ is going to be one of those guys. But now what you have, certainly with Withers and with Ryan, I think to a lesser degree, Wojcik, you've got 3 guys that don't have to get theirs in order to mesh well and be a significant factor in a big victory, but they're capable of getting theirs if you need them to get theirs. And Wojcik had some pretty big game. It's funny, Wojcik also played at Michigan State this year. He had 13 rebounds in that game. Mm-hmm. So you've got to like that you got smart guys, edgy guys that can put the ball in the basket from the perimeter, guys that can move without the ball and get open. They are really effective in cohesive situations. I think that's the thing that held Withers back this year more than anything, is there was no cohesion for the most part at Louisville. I think he blossoms in a more cohesive situation. I think Paxson's game is all about cohesion. I think Cormac Ryan's game is about that, but he can hunt his shot too. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine a game when Ryan and RJ are on? You're talking 2 guys that could go 12 for 18 from 3 in a game. So I think it's impressive. I think it's a great pickup, and there's a maturity aspect there this team's going to have. They're an older team.
Yeah, it's just a lot of experience, man. It's just a lot of experience.
Yeah, just a ton. There's a ton of basketball knowledge. Mm-hmm. Ryan, by the way, was the number 79 player in the country in the class 2018. He was a 4-star kid. And
so long ago. That's
went to play for Jared Haas, so he's got a little Carolina connection already. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, playing against Carolina all these years. If you really want to dig into all things Cormac Ryan, just go read post-game transcripts, especially when he played well, from what Mike Bray said about him.
Yeah.
Mike Bray doesn't BS. That is, if there is a coach that doesn't BS in college basketball, it's Mike Bray. Mm-hmm. So if he's going to say the things he did about Cormac Ryan, I'm going to hang a star by that and say, okay, that's who the kid is.
Mm-hmm. I want to stay on this for a second, and we'll wrap it up after that, because I think we've hit on a lot of points that we wanted to hit on. But I want to stick on what you were talking about in terms of what Hubert's brought in so far in these three guys. I know you talked about them kind of fitting different pieces that Carolina needs, but in a way, they all bring a little bit of something different, but they all are also have an ability to do different things, if that makes sense. So not just like Carolina's not really essentially bringing in one-dimensional guys. Like he's an outside shooter. That's what we're going to use him for. No, I think these guys, as you saw when you look at their stats from previous programs and just watch some of their highlight tape, they all bring different aspects of their game that's going to impact North Carolina and fill roles. So when you see what Hubert's brought in so far, and with some of the understanding of what could come next for the Tar Heels and potentially another commit, and who knows what could happen after that, what do you rate what Carolina's done so far? Because for me, I think it's been a pretty solid portal so far for the Tar Heels.
Well, if you were to look back this past season and make a checklist of the things that they didn't consistently do well in offense, you start with shooting from the perimeter. Mm-hmm. Number two, they didn't finish around the rim. They shot like 53% on layups all season. All right. And they also didn't move well. Like, how many backdoor cuts for buckets can you recall this year? How many alley-oop dunks? How much weak side stuff did they get? Very little.
Yeah.
So what you have with these three guys, with Withers, you have a backside cutter and a finisher at the rim. He's not an A+ athlete. He's probably an A- athlete, but he finishes at the rim like an A+ athlete, okay? With Wojcik, you have a guy with tremendous understanding of the floor, of where to move. He's a guy that if he steps into a team that only runs a motion offense, you don't have to teach it to him. He's going to just set right in and play. I imagine Ryan's the same way. With Ryan, you have someone with a very quick release. I'm not sure it's Brady Manic quick, but it's close. He's got a wonderful catch and shoot release. He gets the ball. He's ready to go. There's no wasted movement. It's a trigger when he shoots the ball. So you don't play as much in sand with these guys. I've said a lot. Last year's team played in sand. Guys would get the ball on the perimeter, and it was like a windup to shoot. It took time for the ball to be released. And because of that, it was easier to put pressure on Caleb and RJ on that stuff. It was easier to double Armando, and everything was stressed that they did. I think this group, with what they've done so far in college, will allow for Carolina, if they go about things the right way, to generate more easy baskets, whether it's at the rim or whether it's an open look on the perimeter with a defender flying at you instead of already on you. I think they have a chance to generate more easy looks, and by that, I think they should have a higher shooting percentage from inside the arc and from outside the arc. And we haven't talked defense yet. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're really good offensively, you could be solid defensively. Mm-hmm. We've seen solid defensive Carolina teams win national titles in 2005, 2009, 2017, and they were criticized well into January for their defense, into February. So, and I'm not saying this is a title team, but what I'm saying is you can play defense by putting pressure on teams to score by being very efficient offensively. I think with what they're bringing in, they have a chance at being more efficient offensively next year than they were this past season, provided they approach things in a way that would take best advantage of the personnel that they have.
I like it, AJ.
And as far as you asked me what else they need, I still think they need someone that they know can back up Armando, but I also think that the staff is looking at Jalen Washington and looking at Zayden High coming in, and perhaps even Jalen Withers, who's 6'9" with a long reach, thinking, you know what, we could probably get away with that. Mm-hmm. That could be the case. And if that's the case, maybe they don't waste a spot on a big transfer. Maybe they go ahead and get a guy who was maybe once an A+ guy and still can be that, and someone who has produced, someone who won't get in the way, someone who will play cohesively. And I think you know who we're talking about. I think Harrison Ingram would fit in that sense. He averaged 9.2 shots per game last year on a team that was mediocre, a team that was starving for scoring. That tells me he is a team first guy. Mm-hmm. It's not about him. I think that's what they're going for here. It's clear that the self-evaluation of the last couple of years has rendered some determinations by Hubert and the staff that we need to go in this direction. if we're going to win, because it's not always about putting the 5 best players on the planet on the floor. It's about working in sync. Basketball could be poetry, and you have to have the right words laid out the right way in order to be poetry. I think that's what they're looking at. So there's a reason Harrison Ingram is on campus right now. There's a reason that they've been in touch with a few other guys that have similar attributes. That's what they want. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, you get another guy like Ingram, I think you could consider it a very good portal for North Carolina. So we'll see what happens, AJ, over the coming days, and who knows, could be coming weeks. And I mean,
I think one more in the portal and at least one more high school kid, perhaps two.
Yeah,
they have scholarships available, so they have scholarships available. So, but I think they have to be very calculated with it, because you don't want to overcrowd certain situations that could lead to some issues.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And again, we'll see what continues to happen. And if you want to be locked into what's happening behind the scenes and get some more insight to that, come join our awesome community at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Links below. $8.33 a month for a premium subscription. It's a great time to do so, AJ. Like, there's so much going on, man. And this is supposed to be the off season. You see the air quotes I'm using right now. It's supposed to be the off season.
I'm supposed to step back here in a few days, but I may not be able to do that too much.
No such thing.
You guys would have known about a lot of this if you were on the site earlier. David had an intel drop last night that was unreal. Unreal stuff. So, and there's going to be a lot more. We're popping it on there.
Yeah, so much of what we do is not free, and it's really good stuff. David's involved with it as well when it comes to the basketball recruiting. He's our director of basketball recruiting. AJ's obviously involved as well. So come get locked in over at TarHeelIllustrated.com. $8.33 a month. And AJ, let me shout out Rogue Shop too, real quick. Our sponsor on this podcast. You guys know we love them. Been sponsors with us for a long time. Check them out. RogueShop.com. All your CBD, all your Delta 8, all your Delta 9 needs, whatever you need, they've got it for you. All high quality, family grown stuff. Use promo code TarHeels10 to save on your next order. And we appreciate you guys watching as always. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Appreciate you tuning in for another episode of the Tar Heel Illustrated podcast. Let's do this, AJ. Go ahead and like this video below if you're excited about Cormac Ryan committing to North Carolina. I want to see if we can get some reaction, because I do think it's a commitment from what I've seen on Twitter over the last couple of days and over the last few minutes, really, before we hopped on this podcast, that Carolina fans are pretty excited about and pretty pleased with. So see if we can run some likes up.
If you're not subscribed, our channel, subscribe. We've got to get to 6. He thinks 15,000 by the start of football practice. I'm going 16,000.
I almost forgot about that bet. Yeah, we're over the 14 mark now, so we're cooking with some gas. Hopefully it'll keep climbing.
We should have a wager. We should have a wager, a $1 wager, like on trading places.
I like it.
So if it's at 15.5, then we tie, right?
Yeah,
I know. I'm doing a lot of old movies with you today.
You did mention the old movie off camera too. I don't even. What was it again? What was the movie again?
Deliverance.
Yes, cool Deliverance is what we were talking about. Don't ask me how we started talking about that movie, but
we're not going down that. We're not going down that path.
Another podcast for another day. Probably never talk about that. But again, we'll go ahead and get out of here, AJ, before we derail another podcast, which if you look at our record recently, we've been fantastic at doing it. It's been a pleasure.
If you see a wheel flying down the highway, it was the wheel of our podcast that derailed.
100% came
shot off like it came out of a cannon.
I'm getting out of here before we.
I have to go cook with my daughter. I put that off for an hour and a half.
I got to go eat, man. So it's 8:30 over here. I got to get.
I told her I would show her how to cook something tonight. So we're doing daddy daughter. My wife's gone. She's at the beach with her friend for her birthday. So we're doing daddy daughter cooking tonight. But it's what?
I love it.
It's after 8:00. So
I love it. What are you making, real quick? What are you making? I got to ask.
I'm not sure.
Oh, she's going to surprise you a little bit. I like that.
I got a few things at the store today to sort of choose from. So
okay.
We're going to go from there. It's always whatever she wants.
Oh, of course.
Otherwise, it won't be fun. She'll just go back upstairs.
Yeah, if you're not gonna eat it, you're definitely not gonna make it. So, I'll let you go enjoy that.
You'll find that out in about 15 years.
Yeah, give me some time, man. I'm not in a rush right now. I'm not in a rush at this moment. So.
And here's another thing: if you like the fact that Jacob's getting married in 2.5 weeks,
yeah, dude, it's creeping up, man. It is creeping up.
Click like on the video. Click like on the video.
Click like. I mean, I think this video should get 150 likes easy. I'm going to go ahead and set that mark. 150 likes. We've gotten more than that on podcasts before. We can do that.
We got to pick up at least 75 subscribers on this video.
Oh, I think we could. I'm going to have to go check how much we have right before I upload this. I'll keep track of it.
We picked up like 390 on a Caleb Love video a couple weeks ago.
Wow. Off one. It did get a lot of views, which was great. You had a really good feedback. But wow,
I think that's what
that's a ton. If we don't hit 150 on this one, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Let's go ahead and get out of here, though, AJ. Appreciate y'all watching. See y'all on the next one. Thanks.